Hi everybody, you're watching The Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Look who we got in the building. Penn and Teller. What's up,
How
fellas?
you doing? Good to see you, man.
Good to meet you. I don't think I'm going to be hearing anything from you today.
Not a lot. You won't be
Not
hearing
a lot
from him. Not a lot, no.
How long has this whole gig been going on now between you
Well,
two guys?
Teller and I have been working together 44 years.
Wow.
But Teller not speaking publicly has been going longer than that. Teller, when I first met him, Teller was already working silently.
And that was just a decision you wanted to make?
I think he was really interested in seeing if he could lie to people without speaking.
You know, it's one thing to listen, it's another thing to never speak.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty fascinating how that goes down.
Makes it interesting.
Yeah, definitely so. So why don't we wind things back, talk about you as an illusionist. Take me back to being a little kid and just getting
Well, I
into
started
speaking.
late. You know, Teller started when he was 5. He had health problems and sent away for a Howdy Doody magic kit and became fascinated by that. So by the time I met Teller, he was already a good magician. And I started out as a juggler.
Yeah. You went to clown school, right?
I went to Ringley Brothers Barnum Bailey Greatest Show on Earth Clown
I
College.
did not even know that existed until
It doesn't
looking into your
anymore.
story. Yeah.
Not anymore. Just a brief period of time when they wanted to try to bust unions by putting new people into clowning quickly, and it was really pretty interesting. You know, I went right from high school right into Ringley
into
Brothers
college.
Barnum Bailey Greatest Show on Earth Clown College.
That's a mouthful.
It is, and you had to say it every time. We had a PR class, and in the PR class, we were taught that we always had to say the complete name of the circus every time. We couldn't say the circus, couldn't say the show.
Why was
couldn't
that?
say Ringling, because they wanted Ringley Brothers Barnum Bailey Greatest Show on Earth every time you said it.
Some
'Cause
good
they were
branding.
yeah, that's what they wanted to do. That was their idea of branding, and now they've gone out of business. But they lasted over 100 years.
How long was the program for?
It was only a few months, but during that we did, you know, wire walking and trapeze, and I went in mostly as a juggler, and you had to learn clown makeup and falling down and all that stupid stuff you would imagine.
I'm sure you don't miss putting that makeup on.
I didn't do it for long. You know, I wasn't physically, I wasn't a funny physical comedian.
You just had the
when I
juggling
learned.
going?
I was mostly a juggler. They brought me on as a juggler, and then I decided that I wanted to do more talking.
It seems like that's kind of been the
That's
theme.
worked out well, yeah, it worked out well.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, but that Clown White, you know, the guys that do those 3 shows a day, they're in their full clown makeup from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. You know,
That sounds
just
crazy.
in it forever. Yeah.
Not a fan, Teller, right? No, definitely not. So I've read some stuff that you said in the past about where magic was at when you guys were first starting out, and just in terms of the landscape. How have things changed?
Well, you know, when we started out, it was really just, a greasy guy in a tux with a lot of birds torturing women in front of Mylar to bad rip-off Motown music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. It was only that kind of stuff. And then we came along, in this particular way, there are 2 schools of magic. There's the one school of magic that thinks that you're supposed to pretend to be doing real miracles, like keep the mystery there.
Right.
And the religious magicians, we could say. And then there's the whole other school of skepticism, most famously Harry Houdini, and then on to Amazing Randy, that pride ourselves, at being honest. At saying, we're doing tricks, and the other side of that argument will say that they're doing events or stunts, or we don't know what's going to happen, and then we simply say tricks. And tricks is, of course, the more intellectual way to do it. Illusion is a term of art for something that's mostly visual, mirror stuff and things like that. But trick is really something that explores how we ascertain what's true, how we get knowledge, which is fascinating and wonderful. Lying to people and saying they have real powers has no interest to me at all, And we see a lot of that. And then, so it was a lot of stage magic. And then we watched in the 90s as that kind of street magician thing started, like David Blaine, and then everybody who ripped off David Blaine. David
A lot
Blaine,
of people doing that, yeah.
David Blaine did probably the greatest magic TV special ever with Street Magic, and people loved it. And then, another 30 guys came along doing that same special a zillion times. And David Blaine's first special, he's kind of doing tricks, and it's pretty charming and pretty great. And the idea of that special that was so smart was showing the people's reaction You know, it wasn't so much here I am doing a trick, it's here I am doing a trick and this is how these people reacted. It was really smart and really cool. And then David started doing stuff that was more like, oh, maybe I have real power, maybe I'm real magic, which I always think is so much less interesting. You know, because if you say you're real magic,
right,
then you've got some people who believe you, which is kind of sad and
misleading,
immoral
a little
and
bit
creepy.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who just think you're a dipshit. You know?
There's that too.
You're not real magic, shut up.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing tricks, it just comes down to a very simple, what kinds of shortcuts in human thinking are you exploiting here? And also, it's automatically, and I'm using this term very broadly, but it's automatically political. Because you automatically think, if these fools can scam me like this, what are people with real budgets able to do?
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure for you guys it's been hard at times, maybe in the beginning, just to debunk that. And like, just you've been very outspoken about talking about your tricks and talking about things in your act.
You know, there is this myth that's even believed by those who perpetuate it, that there's some sort of code of
like a
magic.
magician's code, yeah.
But you know, the code of magic is not it's not a moral code. There's nothing morally wrong about giving away magic secrets. It's an artistic code. You know, like you know, how many beats a minute you want to do in dance music. Sure. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you have to do that because that's a moral imperative. It just means, you know, we find this works most of the time, and most of the time you do want to keep the trick secret because most of the time it's more beautiful. But once in a while, it's more interesting and beautiful to let the audience in and surprise them. And also it plays the bigger lie. When we come out and show you something that has a really clever trick behind it, then you tend to think that all of our tricks are that clever and beautiful, and most of the secrets we keep secret because they're so ugly and stupid.
There seems to
Which
be...
ugly and stupid was the original name for Penn and Teller.
But it's just simplicity at the core.
No, sometimes it's very, very complex. It's sometimes the way we do stuff is just so, I mean, I can tell you how every magic trick is done.
Right.
I will tell you the secret to everything, and that is we're willing to spend more time than you think it's worth.
So how much time are we talking?
Some tricks, it's years and years and years.
Really?
Oh yeah, we've got stuff in the show. Well, there's stuff in the show we've come back to after 25, 30 years. I'm not even counting that.
Right.
There's stuff that we write and work on and lay out and then work 4 years, 5 years, 6 years before it gets in the show. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's some stuff that goes in quicker. It has to, of course. We do a new ending. Every show Fool Us, we do a new trick, so we have to come up with about 13 new closers every year, and those have to be quicker than 6 years. But some of those are things we've been working on for a very, very long time. You know, magic is very, very different. You know, when you I don't mean to be in any way disrespectful, but when you learn music, you learn to play an instrument. You learn to play keyboard. You learn to play sax. The skills that you've acquired to do that allow you to play other pieces of music. Now, you know, when you're talking about someone like Miles Davis or Bob Dylan who are breaking down walls and reinventing things, that's a whole different issue. I'm just talking about competence on the instrument, you know, the ability to play those notes, read music, be able to lay it out. But with magic, there's exceptions. You know, once you learn a few things with cards, those are reusable in other ways. When you learn, you know, a pass or a French drop, you can use that other places. But for the most part, in doing magic, when you write a piece, you have to invent the instrument you're going to play it on. And then you have to learn to play it.
There's much more creativity involved
well,
with
not
that.
really creativity, but there's just a lot more drudgery.
Yeah.
You know, a lot more just practice and work it out. You know, now we got to learn this.
Right.
You know, and that's also what's wonderful about it. You know, you sometimes, some of my friends who are in music who've just been reading down charts for a long time, there's a certain kind of boredom that comes over that. But with magic, you have to start fresh all the time. As they say in meditation, the beginner's mind. You have to have that all the time.
Well, I think music is an interesting place to compare because you think about some artists playing the hits and going out and doing those over and over again. Do you guys ever feel that pressure? Say if you have something of a trick from 25 years ago and you've been doing it consistently for years, is there a pressure to get new stuff and the old stuff? How do you
the pressure's oddly in both directions. You know, we did a thing, probably our most famous trick that's been, you know, voted many times in papers and so on, the greatest magic trick of all time. We did the double bullet catch, which is not an idea that we invented. The bullet catch goes back, it's an American trick, goes back a few hundred years. But our version was, you know, 357 magnums loaded by audience members, bullets signed, shot in each other's faces and ostensibly caught in the teeth, which of course we never claimed was dangerous, which is really important. You know, so many magicians, especially today, try to say to their audience, hey, we might die doing this. Tune in, this is really dangerous.
Right, they're trying to hype it up.
I believe that kind of hype is immoral, because if you're lying, fine, but then you're also debasing the audience by saying you want to come and see us get hurt. If you want to come and see us get hurt, you shouldn't be going to entertainment.
That's not the reason to pay money to go somewhere.
No.
Yeah.
And and if you're not lying, then you have no right to make the audience morally complicit in your reckless regard for your own life. So we did it was completely safe. But we did that trick for many, many years, and it was very, very well known. And then we just stopped doing it, not because we didn't like it. We still loved doing it. The last night we did it, we loved doing it. It was just that we wanted to do a different thing. Since we've been in Vegas, you know, the past 18 years, we've done, what, 6 or 7 hours, maybe more, of brand new material. And it is possible to be non-monogamous with your material. You can love that material very much and still want to do new stuff. So I don't like it very much when people try to say, well, I got bored with those old songs, want to do new stuff. You can say, those old bits were great. We just got new bits we love to do too. But every time we revisit the old stuff, we love doing that too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You've got to, if you're a live performer, you've got to, while you're doing it, it's just in terms of mental hygiene, you've got to pretend that bit you're doing right then is the most important bit in the world.
Right.
You
As
can't
if you're doing
say,
it for the first time.
You can't say, I can't wait to get to the new stuff.
Yeah.
You know. And sometimes that takes some willpower. Sometimes it takes some discipline. But that's always the goal, is to make the bit you're performing. Because you can't say, you know, boy, you guys should have seen us last night. We were good.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a good look for you guys. You know, it's really fascinating to me where you draw the moral line when it comes to people trying to dupe you to get there, whereas you weren't going to draw the moral line with exposing secrets to certain things. How have you come to that belief?
First of all, human life is important. And I don't think it's right to make people be part of taking that recklessly. I think that love for life is what art should celebrate.
Absolutely.
In every front. So that's an easy moral line to draw. The moral line on lying to people, I tend to draw the battle line in a different place. We had one magician who got very, very angry at us when we were giving away the cups and balls with the clear plastic cups, and said, whose side are you on anyway? And we said, well, the audience's side.
Absolutely.
I mean, no one else says no one else draws battle lines.
No.
Bob Dylan doesn't say to Mick Jagger, whose side are you on?
No way.
Ours or the audience.
That's ridiculous. And it's really situational, like you're saying, too. But like the fact that other magicians call you guys out, how do you deal with the rest of the magician community? What's that like?
That's changed. I mean, in the 80s when we were kind of coming up, people were getting used to us. There was a lot of hostility, but now, you know, decades have passed. We've been around for a long time. We went from being thrown out of the Magic Castle to being Magicians of the Year as many times as anyone else has been, I believe. We've been.
What were you guys thrown out for?
We were thrown out for giving away magic.
Wow.
And but now it's come around. The people understand us, and now that we're doing Penn and Teller Fool Us, and we've given so many young magicians their first break. You know, they go on to other shows and get well known, but many of them give us credit as being their first national TV exposure. And the way we deal with giving away magic secrets, I like to think, is not prurient, but rather respectful.
I gotcha. So when did things ultimately tip for you guys in terms of really making this a mainstream thing?
Well, you know, we're from middle class, barely backgrounds. My father was a jail guard. Teller's dad was a commercial artist. So it was very early in our careers when we started making the kind of lifestyle that we grew up with. And we considered ourselves completely successful, you know. And we also had this view of how our lives were going to be, that we would always be playing for maybe a couple hundred people a night.
And you guys would have been cool with that.
We would have been very cool with that. So we considered ourselves completely successful. And then we came to New York on a whim.
What year was this?
Richard Frankel in '84.
Okay.
Producers took a shot at us off Broadway. We did not expect it to be successful, neither one of us. We took it as, okay, they're going to try to give us the money, give it a try.
Right. What were you guys getting paid for that first show, for those first shows?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, it was very good money for us at the time, you know. But when we were playing fairs and you know, outdoor festivals and fairs and stuff like that, we were making a lower middle class living. But we were both single. We had no dependents.
Right, and you're just doing your thing, building it up.
We were doing great, and we were very, very happy to do that for our whole lives. And then we came to New York, and all of a sudden it went from doing fairs and carnivals to, you know, Howard Stern and David Letterman and Saturday Night Live, and then we went from off-Broadway to Broadway, and it turned out we were off by an order of magnitude. Instead of, you know, 200 people wanted to see us, about 2,000 did. And we never had a goal to be on Broadway. We never had a goal of a venue. We never had a goal to be in Vegas. We just had a goal to do shows together that we thought were pretty great. You know, it's astonishing to me how many people get into show business to get out of it. You know, most of our peers in Vegas put together a show and get successful with it and then play golf all day.
I want to make a quick buck and then get out.
No, they end up just playing golf all day and then going and doing their same show for years. And
you guys want more?
My hobby is doing magic tricks with Teller. So I mean, I want to do that. You know, if we stopped getting paid, we'd still come up with magic tricks. I mean, I'm not saying that to the real.
No, you guys still want to get paid. CW, keep paying these guys.
We want
right?
to get paid. Yeah, sure.
So I've read about you guys hanging out at the coffee shop, kind of bouncing ideas around.
Yeah, that's where.
How long has that been going on for now?
Well, I mean, 44 years we've been working together.
How long? So how long? Take me inside the coffee shop session.
Well, we sit down. We sometimes bring notes to the meeting. Well, fortunately, we go to kind of the same places in Vegas all the time, so the patrons there know us, and so we're not bothered.
Right.
And we sit across from one another with you know, decaffeinated hot beverages.
No caffeine for you guys?
Nope. And we
have got enough natural energy.
We're jacked up enough. You don't want to see us jacked up. And we sometimes bring notes or stuff we're thinking about. And we have a style of working that's very out of fashion now, which is when one of us gets an idea, the other one tries to shoot it down. There's no sort of let's go with this. There's no sort of improv, always saying yes, because if there are mistakes in that trick, we want to find them quickly so we don't waste a lot of time putting them together.
Yeah.
And then it always starts, even when I have felt that I'm bringing something to Teller finished, it never is, never even close. Usually ends up unrecognizable, not only not finished, but unrecognizable. And when Teller brings ideas, we change them, we monkey with them. But very quickly it becomes a two-person idea. And then that whole stage, that whole note stage, is one whole thing. And then we have to bring the crew in and the other people that we work with and build you know, the first prototypes out of cardboard and plywood and gaffer's tape and go through that whole stage. And we're fortunate because we play in Vegas, you know, we play at the Penn and Teller Theater, which gives you an idea that we have a little bit of muscle there.
Yeah, you got some strong footing in Vegas.
We don't have to say, you know, we don't have to clear it with anybody. We just say, you want to put this in? Yeah, throw it in. And we are fortunate to have a show that people seem to enjoy a lot. So if we have a bit that's a little bit shaky, a little bit weak, we put it in between two strong bits, and maybe the audience doesn't notice until it gets really good. And I mean, there's nothing we like more than doing that. We're in a perfect situation. We have in our crew, you know, the new guy is 12 years, you know, 12, 13 years. That's the new guy.
Right.
Working with us.
Still,
You know?
for most, it would be a long tenured guy.
Yeah. And we go back forever with these people, and it becomes, you know, Penn and Teller is really kind of, when you come right down to it, 15, 20 people, I guess. Even the core is 6 or 7.
Wow.
You know, and we get these crazy ideas, and people try to help us make them happen. I mean, it really is. If you asked me when I was 15 what my ideal life would be, it would be exactly what we have. I mean, we go in and we're able to think up ideas that we like and get them on stage with people helping us. I mean, and then people coming to see them. I mean, every single, there could be a breakdown at any stage of that.
Absolutely. No, I mean, listen, I told you guys I saw your show a few years back, and it's a very entertaining experience.
Well, thanks.
Whether you're into the whole magic thing or you're just jumping in for the first time, and I think that's the cool thing about what you guys do.
Yeah, we try to make it so. There's also a lot to think about in magic that it astonishes me that people throw that away.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, as I said earlier, if you say I have magic powers, then people have two choices: bullshit or huh?
Right.
But if you say we're doing tricks there, and you talk a little bit about how a trick is put together and assembled, you're talking about the entire reasoning power that we have. You can talk about how cause and effect, you know, how correlation is distorted in magic. You can talk about misdirection as a general idea. The ideas in magic are really very broad. They're the ideas of how we think and how we ascertain knowledge. You know, just like music contains built into it romance and poetry and movement. It's built into music, and those things are explored with every piece of music that's done. And in magic, you have how do we tell what's true and what mistakes do we make in perception? And those should be explored all the time. When you say you have real magic powers, that part of it goes away. The part that's it's almost like you know, doing music without dancing.
Right.
You can't do it. You've got to be tapping your foot. And in magic, you've got to be thinking about how you establish truth. You've got to be.
What is something that would surprise people about your relationship or about your show?
Well, that we didn't start out as friends, you know. There was never, you know, with most of your teams, whether you're talking Jagger and Richards or Lennon and McCartney or Martin and Lewis, going back further, they start out with real affection for one another. And when that love falls apart, you have a horrible, I mean, when Lennon and McCartney no longer were in love with each other, it got nasty.
Yeah.
But with Teller and I got together because we felt we did better stuff together than we did separately. And that makes it colder. But it also turns out that respect may last a lot longer than affection. And then, you know, and I got to say this because my daughter makes me say this, but Teller is my BFF, you know.
Well, I would hope so with all the time he's spent.
Yeah, but we don't socialize very often. But, you know, important stuff, you know, when our parents died, when my children were born, really important things.
This is your guy who's there.
We go to
with you.
one another.
Yeah.
But we don't pal around much. We really don't.
It's really interesting. So when people check out the show on CW, what are some big things that they should be thinking about when they check you guys out?
Well, you know, when you see magic on TV, it's, I think I can say this universally, it's always faked. They decide exactly where the camera goes. Right. Usually they have what some of our street magician colleagues call friendlies, which is to say the people that you're seeing there have been coached.
I gotcha.
But when we're doing Fool Us, the audience knows that those magicians are coming out to do a trick once and for us. And they also know that we are not although we make them look as good as we can, and there's the shiny black floor and the 12 cameras, and everything's beautiful audience, everything's all set up, we are not doing anything camera-wise or cut-wise to make it look different, because that would be cheating.
Yeah.
You have to see exactly what we see. And what I really love about our show is I get so offended on the talent shows that are on TV that
like which ones?
Well, you know, America's Got Talent or American Idol or anything. I always think, who are these people to judge? You know, if you show me a show where Bob Dylan, Sun Ra, and Tiny Tim win, then I'm okay with it. But as long as you're getting people winning that are just by the numbers and kind of mainstream, I'm not interested. In our show, we don't make any comments about how good they are, how successful they'll be, anything they should change in their show. It's very simple, it's very black and white. Did you fool us? Not did you fool anybody else, not did you fool anyone else. People have come out and fooled us with really dumb tricks that every other magician knew, and people have come out with really, really smart tricks and not fooled us. You know, it's just about the two of us.
That makes it really interesting.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, what we like to remind people is the most successful people on our show haven't fooled us. Piff the Magic Dragon came on the first season. He did not fool us, but he went on to do America's Got Talent, did very well on there, and now has his own theater in Vegas and is one of our best friends. But in that actual rule, he did not fool us. So it's a very strange show where some of the people who've won and fooled us have gone on to do nothing. You know, because all they did was fool Penn and Teller, and the audience didn't love them. And others have gone on and lost and done very, very well after that. And some have done both. Shim Lin, you know, went on to fool us 2 times, and also went on to win America's Got Talent and all sorts of other stuff. But I want there to be, you know, a very clear demarcation around what we do. And what we do is, did you fool us? Not, is this genius?
I gotcha. So why don't you tell everybody where they can check it out?
Yeah, check it out on the CW, Monday nights at 8, and we play it again on Wednesday night. Penn and Teller Fool Us. And if you didn't see the first show of this season, we did something that no other show like this has ever done, and for good reason, because it's a stupid idea. We decided to put ourselves under the same pressure that the people on our show are on. And we went out to try to fool David Copperfield.
Oh, wow.
So we put David Copperfield in our seat with the earpiece, with the notepad, everything.
Pressure right there.
And we went out to see if we could, on our own show, if we could win our own show. And I'll tell you, I have not seen Teller actually tremble in 20 years. Actually handshaking like this before doing a card trick. And I had to, right before we went on, call for a glass of water because my mouth went totally cotton mouth, totally dry.
And that doesn't happen to you guys.
Never. No, we're pros. And David Copperfield scared the living shit out of us. It was wonderful. And we were very, very proud because, you know, you don't see Howie Mandel getting up and going up against the judges.
That's true.
We did.
He was just here last week, by the way.
He's a good guy. We love him.
Well, guys, thanks a lot.
Well, wonderful to meet
pleasure.
you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. See you next time here on The Sit Down.